All right, hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Shusaku Study Project, where we review chronologically every game that Shusaku played as a group. And the game we have this week, or this time, is a game against Shuwa. So this is a game from 1840. So Shusaku is 11, I think, or maybe 12. But he's still very young. And so a number of the games that we see are possibly teaching games. And if you're looking at this game with AI, you get to see that Shuwa closes the gap from the three stones to make the game even, and then the game stays even. And it's hard to know whether this is because Shuwa chose to just stay there. It's not like Shusaku makes very big mistakes either. So like you don't see kind of the graph going Shusaku makes a mistake, Shuwa makes a mistake, right? But still, you get to really wonder a little bit about this because Shuwa seems like he could have continued to play more things and possibly beat Shusaku. But this game, well, we will see. You'll know how this game ends because one or the other could still win from here. The contributors we have for this particular game were Bugcat, DE, FireScourge, Itarios, and myself. So thank you to all of you. Without your contribution, this review would not be what it is. And I think this was the last game where Frozen actually had time to do this, but the katago analysis for this game that is the basis for this review was done by Frozen. You want to know what moves make Shusaku lose the advantage? Well, every move, this actually is connected to the katago review. Every move that is more than a 2-point mistake is marked in this game and is what we use to base our analysis and understand some of the deviations. And the reason why it's more than 2 points is because, according to Frozen, if up to about a 2-point mistake, it could be a stylistic choice, and so it's not necessarily a mistake. So you're not gonna see 2-point mistakes here. Things that are according to katago mistakes of 2 points or less, but more than that, you will mark. So Shuwa opens here, and Shusaku does a very standard reply. And so far, Shusaku's looking good. Gotta say, he's got 4 stones to 1. Shuwa pincers. This is I like this because, frankly, it is more aggressive, but it also opens all the directions for white. Right, the left side is contested and made a lot smaller. From a development perspective, this also challenges this stone's ability to move. So it is sort of poking at what is going to be most effective for black to play. Now at this point, you could Tenuki as black because you have so many options. Taisha. I mean, the Taisha would be, this is how the Taisha starts. So if we want to see the Taisha here, both players will have to be a little bit creative. But you will see the Taisha come up. I forget if it's going to be the next game or in the next couple of games we're going to have at least one instance of the Taisha show up. So C15 is probably the stone we're going to play with. Is going to have to choose whether to go into the corner with a move like this one or go into the center in some fashion. You could press, the option is here, but if you look with this is not guaranteed to happen all the time, but katago does indicate that here white should kind of resist, and so you end up in a more complicated fight here. Now, black is going to go into the center and is going to do it this way. So the choice here is a choice to move towards the center, keep connection to the 4 stones, and basically work on the weaker stone to choose something to get the stone stronger. This stone is considered stronger because it's closer to the corner, so it's easier for it to make a base. Now, you have options. Oh, this is also one of the fun things about this game that we're going to see a little bit in this opening. Is this is one of those things you see from Hikaru no Go, but this entire opening here, Black's moves feel very aggressive to me because Black has 3 stones. But if you actually give White a 30-point komi and then have the AI look at this game, so to make up for the 3-stone handicap, the AI is going to say, "Oh yeah, absolutely, this is what you should do." So Black is going to treat this opening as an even game. He's not going to try to leverage the 3 handicap stones so much. He's going to assume that he really has to work to win this game. So White is going to work towards the outside. He's not trying to create a fight, and one reason why is because if you try to go in the other way, Black is going to cross-cut, because this stone is in a great position, and I can leave this as an exercise to the reader. You can see how this is not going to be a good result for... Like, you just put stones down. Actually get the SGF on the website, click around, look at this position, and you can learn about... You can see that none of the results are going to be very good for White. So Black pulls back, keeps his stones more connected, and is of course going to poke at the weakness now, right here. And so what is Black's move? Not much of a choice. Right, so now this strengthens the left side. This strengthens this area, right? White can play something like this and get a nice 3-space extension, approach the corner. Very happy. Very happy. For a 3-stone handicap game, this move is much too slow. It doesn't really do enough on the board. But this is, in the worst case scenario, you can just make a base here. Now, if Black fixes his weakness around here, then White is going to have time to play something like this or something like this, and it's going to start limiting the options for this group. And even this Kusumi is slow and not perfect, but it is a start. So Black doesn't have much of a choice, right? So Black is going to go here, and this was the time when I actually looked at Katago for the first time and added the 30-point komi and said, "Oh, yeah, actually, technically, Katago thinks this move is the best move if you give White a 30-point komi, but this is almost even, almost the same." Is it time to be bold and double honey? Not yet. We're not there yet. Black's shape is a little bit too thin for that. Now, here, if we look at the board position, right, this group is safe because it can go out into the center, it can cut here, it can make a base, it's got all the room you want. So White is not concerned about this. Black's shapes obviously are very thin, and this is a single stone here. White has a whole bunch of forcing moves here, whether attaching, doing a shoulder hit here, attaching here, Atarying, all of these are possible. Ooh, Fusion Lust, hello. So now the idea that White has here is White is going to want to keep Black split. And this remains kind of principle number 1 in a fight, is don't let the opponent get stronger. So White is going to connect out this way. Sorry, not connect out, that's not correct. White is going to keep Black split this way and get this stone out. Now, if you assume an even game, this is the only move. Not much of a choice. And so Black is going to resist here. It's just going to say that he wants to develop this area of the board. He wants to keep these stones connected. He wants to keep working on the weakness in this group. White continues to resist. And then Black goes into the corner. And the tactical reason for this corner move is that now you want to challenge this group's ability to make ice space in the corner. That's what you're aiming for. Oh man, the names of the people are unreadable screen. I'm so sorry. This is what you call not testing things. So this move essentially secures this group. It's not exactly completely alive, but if it does get another move in the corner, it's fine. So there's a forcing element to this move. So directionally, it does strengthen this group and weaken this group, and that's about the right time to do it. Now, white obviously has to keep the pressure on black here. So there's only really one move, which is going to be contesting the corner back. So at this point, you're working on shapes and connection. So white has to maintain its connection. Now at this point, the result is that this group is in danger of being sealed in, and living would be difficult if he gets sealed in properly, so black has to extend out. Now white has a whole bunch of options here. White can just turn. White can Atari here. White can peep from underneath, peep from above. All of these are going to be reasonable options. This game is starting to look very familiar now. It is possible that you and I talked about this game, and I asked you about the value of a ko. I asked you about, there was another game, but I think we may have looked at this game together at some point. So this group is a little weakened, but it's still completely okay for the same reasons. It can still go out into the center, make a base. This group is fine because it's all the way open here, and this group is okay because it's out, but its base abilities is very limited. Now, from a direction of play, what you want to strengthen this group. You want to strengthen that, but you don't want to do it in a way that makes black a lot stronger. So if you just turn, it's going to be tricky to, assuming black just plays slow and steady, it's actually tricky to leverage this to put this group in enough danger to be useful. So the direction has to be adjusted. So white pincers from here. Now, at this point, if we look, right, all of these, the things haven't really changed so much. This can live because it's got the Atari. This group has eye shape and it's out into the center, so it's fine. And this group is now the weaker one, but it has a way out into the center. It could make a base if necessary. So we are continuing the fight, but now we have more groups to deal with. So black continues to keep white split. Right? And now the danger is for white is if black gets to play this move, this stone would basically have to find a way to live or create another fight. So that's a concern that white has to balance. But first, at this point, white needs to change the amount of danger that his groups are in because he can't handle all of this at the same time. So he plays this move to guarantee the eye space, which also impacts the health of this group. Right? And black ignores this and plays here. Because black doesn't care about the life of this group right now. The best he can do is start the ko, and so it's a lot of stones for white to play to challenge this. And because of this stone, it's still out, it's still alright. And one thing that you can notice before we go further to black's next move is between this move, these two moves, and of course the 3 handicap stones, black is now beginning to leverage center power very intentionally. Now at this point, the potential for points on the left side when white jumps lightly this way, points on the top side is almost destroyed. Black can make points, but it's a lot of effort and it would be very hard to make points here without losing a tempo towards the center, so it's not particularly interesting. So now the sequence we're going to look at is essentially the only sequence that exists. Like I looked at this with katago goes, yep, that's what we do. That's how this works. So this is the move. This clamp is the move you play here to limit white's ability to get a base while you get stronger and without losing a tempo. So white pokes at the weaker stone. Black is gonna Atari once and get a connection. White counter Atari. Black captures. White is gonna resist and offer the ko. Black continues in his plan to develop strength on the outside. White takes, and black, because there's no ko threats in the opening, just makes an eye. And this is also alright because white's shape is pretty thin, right? And so white is going to play one more time here. The group is not completely alive, but it's going to be hard to kill. And it has some amount of eye shape. And it's going to be hard to really kill this group without giving white opportunities to get stronger in ways that will make the rest of the game more complicated. Now black has one eye with this group, but it's also out completely into the center, so it doesn't matter. And so now it's safe for black to tenuki. So when you look at what you should do for black, there's really kind of one option, which is attacking this group or pressuring it. So that is what black does. Black just goes to pressure this group. Now, I looked at this board position a bit, and I didn't end up storing this in the SGF, but it turns out that even if white passes once, this group can still live. There's just enough weakness around here that this can live and connect back out, or just make two eyes. It's not something that I expected, but this means this move is just not senting, fundamentally. Well, hang on, let me make an adjustment here. The fact that these stones can live is not good enough in and of itself, because the effort required to live would yield a lot of strength towards the center for black. So it's not a very good result. But now, what Shuwa is going to leverage is the fact that you can play a stone somewhere and change the value of that area of the board. And he's going to do that to develop the board lightly and flexibly. And and I'm very impressed with that sequence that he uses here. Now, so of course, he's going to be able to tenuki from here, but he has to choose a tenuki that's going to change the value of the board enough. And he chooses this. So the approach here reinforces this group a little bit, puts some pressure on this stone, and opens continuations on the right side. Now there's a couple of options to make shape in the corner. There's a lot of things you could do. You could, as black Atari here first, you could try to split right away. Black chooses to make a base. This move, I think, directionally is a little surprising because it gives white the option of closing this weakness. That would be slow, but it's possible. But it does, so to speak, make a fist before striking, right? This is now a stable group, which means this is a little weaker, and this is going to be a little weaker. You can't attack both on the same side at the same time, but it gives you something. And now, white moves quickly down the right side, approaches, and asks, "Can I do something on the right side with my stones?" Now, the thing to consider is there's a lot of stones here that exist where black has a lot of standard responses, and this group is apparently being ignored, right? And white is now really saying that the value of sealing this group isn't worth it. Like, it's not by playing all these moves, white is telling black it's not worth enough for you to get all this strength because of what I'm going to get if you take the time to seal this in. And so the right side right now is some white potential. So, you know how I was saying that this group can be sealed in and it can still live? So black is going to start challenging this notion a little bit by cutting the way out. And he's also reinforcing the eye space for this group, so he's making this group stronger, which makes this group weaker. That is how fights work in Go, right? It's a relative strength. And you might now be able to seal this group. So now, we are going to capture once, because that's always an option, and say, and now it's on black's, it is on black's shoulders, the responsibility to find the first code threat. Now black plays here. Katago would rather get M15 first, which I think would make more sense, because having this helper here, you'd have to figure out, like, white probably can't afford to shred completely this shape. And once you have this, either you strengthen this way, you attach here, or you continue out. This stone would be helpful, right? But this is not the direction that Shusaku goes in. Shusaku is going to play here, and he is pushing against, he's weakening this stone and weakening the base and the eye shape here. So white does not miss that beat. White sees that black should have pressured first and gets out into the center. This is a directional weakness. I don't know why black chose that. I think black was trying to not have the game more complicated, and he does have 30 points he can spend. This is not marked as a particular, like a 3-point mistake, but it might have been 1.5 or 2 points. So black very slowly considers strength, and we'll notice that this is beginning to create some shape here, but as long as this group has eye shape, it can run out, and none of this is useful potential. But this being said, white has more things to do, and white needs to work really hard to counter the 3-stone handicap. So he has to move quickly and play thin, flexible shapes and create complications. So now we are going to enter a Joseki sequence. Here, here. Now black is going to poke at this stone. White descends. We challenge the base a little bit, and then black is going to extend here and challenge a little bit this cut. Now this is a more old-fashioned Joseki. We don't see this anymore. The R7 cut does exist for later, but it's all right. It's worth noting that this group is going to be able to live, because as much as you have this stone, you do have this move you can play. So you have options to make eye shape here, and of course it's out, so it's not like we have to worry primarily about living. So white stabilizes, right? And so you do make a good enough connection to this stone, but this is 1, 2, 3 spaces, and it's a, you know, and there once it's a large knight's move, right? It's a Dai Gema, I guess is the word for this. So it's not like it's really connected, but good enough for now. So now that we're here, we have a board position that is established and complex enough, and we are 50 moves in. So we have some questions we're going to ask about a group. This is going to be a very nice follow-up, so there is some amount of a code threat here. Never mind, of course, playing over here to keep the code going, but really shatter the eye shape here. This would be a problem. Now, at this point here, the last weak group that white really has, other than these stones, which can get out, so they're not the weakest, although the eye would be hard to give all this territory to black, is this group. And this group is interesting because it can also begin to challenge the potential that black has here. So white is going to move this group out very lightly. It's going to be hard to capture this group, and so white does have the option to play with some amount of speed. Black is going to close out this path and say, okay, I'm okay with taking all of this. Note that, of course, the 3-3 is still open, so it's hard to really say all of this will become points for black, but it is beginning to look like it might be quite a small, strong framework. White jumps. And black pokes at the shape. And this seems to be enough for white to say, okay, now I'm gonna come back here. I do actually want this shape to be fairly steady. And now black plays from his weakest group, which is now this one. You'll notice that this stone, I forgot to mention this, but this stone does impact how much his group can be sealed in. And there's another subcode to play over here. So black gets out his group and then pokes at the weakness, because if he gets to play here, he can poke through here or poke through here and get a nice benefit. White makes a table shape. And this is not a table shape for ice space, it's just a table space for a connection. It's going to be hard for white to play here or here or... Sorry, it's going to be hard for black to disconnect in one way, in any way. There's a couple of variations in the SGF you can look at if you're not sure. You can't see it easily. So, black says, okay, I played my co-threat and you responded. So, white says, do you mind if I seal in? The threat here is if white plays here next, then white can play here, and then this group is sealed in. So black can't let that happen and has to step out. And white takes the go. So now black is going to continue to develop, because he has a couple of weak groups he can poke at. He's going to approach. English is a very difficult language. I'm going to approach these two stones, because these two stones could move out into the corner, but that would be great for black, because it would be very nice if black could develop something to attack these stones, because they don't have two eyes yet, right? This stone kind of cut off that connection back. So, white is going to choose a certain direction to get out, and I like this direction to get out, because it looked weird to me at first, but it has nice follow-ups, right? It can follow up here, it can follow up down here. And so both of these are knight's moves to affect the groups commensurately. This would be very nice because it does actually create a nice connection for these stones here. Sorry, 1 second. I can get this microphone a little bit closer to me. And it can, of course, provide a nice way out for these stones. Over here, it is certainly suggesting that if black doesn't move with this stone, then white will get a very nice, strong, stable group here, and black will lose a fair amount of potential for points here. And again, it is a wider area for white to get out. So this works pretty well. Now, black is going to want to develop this area, it's going to want to reduce this direction, it's going to want to help this stone. And the most direct way to do it is going to be to attach here. So the bottom left corner is now very big and very open. Again, the 3-3 is still here. So white is going to wedge. The path here is just a path for shape, for connections, and for a struggle to get to the center. Now, once we're here, white does play this move. And that gives white some pressure on these stones, because now sealing in on the outside becomes big again for this group. And a follow-up gives eye shape. Enough eye shape to live and have a good base. So because white has begun this, black instantly turns around and takes this cut. And you want to be able to limit the number of liberties of as many groups as possible, because that's how you're going to be able to develop an advantage over a fight. Well, one of the ways. So in this case, this group now has 3 liberties. This group has 2 liberties, single stone. And as this group gets stronger, because these groups get weaker, the counterattack here might be able to gain more strength. So white is going to go out in kind of the one direction he's got available that makes sense, because he doesn't really want to give black the opportunity to turn here. And black could, right? Black could have done this, but the trade here of letting white play up here, or of having white go up or even turn this way, because it doesn't do much for this area, is not interesting. So this is how you're going to keep the pressure on these stones and keep the fight, keep the pressure on the fight. And now that white has connected underneath, black is going to ask how strong he's allowed to get. And this is a nice little move. I like the setup here, because white is basically forced to eat those 2 stones in some fashion. And the trade is such that now black has a lot more strength against these stones, and it's going to be easier to seal in these stones and limit their way out. So that worked out pretty well. Add a stone and sacrifice both. Yes, exactly, Ed. Exactly right. So now black extends, because that's what we're doing. This is how you maintain strength. You take the weakest stone and you keep the pressure on. Now white here has options. White can play here, white can play here. So we're not saying this group is going to die, but we really are choosing the strength in the center, and black is really inching into the center, stone by stone, aiming for this control. Now, so white can live locally here, but allowing black to turn this way would just be too big. And I think when I go to the Go Congress, I'm gonna have to bring like an MP3 player or something, or even like just a small button, and I can push. And then when I push the button, I'll do it only in the middle of a fight. But it'll have the beginning of the Offspring song. You gotta keep them separated. It'll just play, because that seems really important. And that's what white is doing here too. Right? White is working to keep this group separated from this one, because every time, as long as you keep this separated, then this cut is worth something, right? And there's a lot of moves here that are worth more if this group and this group aren't connected. So let's see. Yeah. So black keeps the pressure on, because he's going to be able to turn around and try to separate white. H8. Oh no, wait, hold on. Which one is H8? H. That's daring for black. Like this move. I mean, yeah, sure. We can do that. I think black actually never played. Oh, the indirect attack. You know, I don't remember this move showing up. I tend to look at these games. I often look at these games with Katago. I don't remember this move showing up. But I'm not saying it's a bad move, just that I don't remember this board position. But here, black is going for the indirect attack, right? He's gonna pressure this, and I think maybe try to swallow more of this area. So black is being mega greedy here. White continues to get out. This is the first mistake that we really have for Shusaku. This is a 5.5 point mistake. And it's actually worth noting that while there haven't been 3-point mistakes up until now that have been marked down, Black is up 13 points after this. So at this point in the game, Black was up about 20. So Black had already lost about a handicap stone at this point in the game. In just like tiny bits, tiny moves that just weren't as aggressive as they could be. Or as steady as they could be. And again, it's, you know, it's hard to tell. Because, I mean, Shusaku's 11 years old. Because Shuwa is a genius. It's hard to know why that point, those points disappeared. Maybe, you know, Shusaku was calculating on things he could do to kind of spend the handicap points, the handicap value, and still be okay. But this seems to be a mistake. Black should go to 09 here. This way. Sorry, that's not 09. This is 09. And or possibly here. And the reason why Black should do those two things is to keep White running. It's a cut that doesn't cut anything. I think this is probably a fight. This is probably a fighting decision about liberties. But this is another one of the things that... So this is what? This is game 6 or 7 that I've looked at of Shusaku? I haven't looked at a lot of games yet, right? But the impression that I'm getting is that Shusaku does not enjoy running fights. And I think Shusaku will do a lot of things on the board to avoid a running fight. So this move here and this move, those are moves that don't stop the running fight. They encourage more of a fight. And this fight is going to mean that White's going to be able to come in and use these forcing moves and these cuts to make the game even more complicated. So I think this is why Shusaku chooses this. Now, mind you, White is able to separate. And technically we have another mistake here, another 4-point mistake. Black plays here. Again, we want... You know, we really want to continue squeezing this way. But presumably this is a move that was played to pressure the White stones. If Black is going to connect at... If Black connects here, White can Atari at 06, which is going to be here, right? And that's going to be... And his groups can be connected, and that's a problem. And then Black's corner is going to be very weak, right? So like Black will probably need to just run very weakly, or will need to spend a moving Gote in a corner, which are both very bad things, like just uninteresting things. So the thing to consider, though, is that at this point, White isn't actually alive yet. So the fight is gonna turn out okay when Black gets to turn around and play here. Like this is still forcing. It's a mistake in the sense that it's not perfect, but you know, it works out okay. You felt that you felt M7 was too direct because it feels like it puts Black group in a complicated fight. It's possible that, well, this is probably the thing that we weren't looking at, but maybe you didn't consider this, is maybe Black played this as a sacrifice sequence to spend points. Because when you're here, this move by White, by the way, sorry, this is not here. This move by White supposedly is a 3-point mistake. White should cut at L7 and keep 3 liberties, right? So instead of playing here, White should cut and punish Black for doing this. But White plays into it. And so Black connects. White descends. It is hard to tell, right? Black finally comes back and connects here. Maybe Shuwa was being kind, maybe Shusaku just didn't see this. Maybe Shuwa didn't see it either. Unfortunately, I don't have a Ouija board, and I lost my necromancy permit, so we can't ask him. Now, the convenient part about this move is it removes both defects in white's in the wall, because now this cut is not really meaningful anymore, right? Now, the peep at J5 still exists here, but it has kind of vague value because black can fix and you don't really get a ton directly from it. It's a Kikashi, it's a stone, you can put it there and sacrifice it, right? But it's there. Of course, white still has this move, and white is gonna have this move available, right? Like this move is still gonna be here too. So there's going to be ways to reduce this area. I'm gonna show you what calm play looks like in this blue spot. Yeah, I'm sure when they looked at Katago after the game, they were both very sorry. Yeah. So Shuwa now plays underneath, and this move is cool. I think it's cool because once you have this, you get follow-ups, and the follow-ups are cool. So this is still here as a potential follow-up, right? This is still here, obviously, but you also get like a move like this, directly going, hey, can I connect out? You get a little further out, can I connect out? You get a little further out, can I connect out? And then you get the, hey, can I go into the corner or can I connect out? Right? So never underestimate the value of like ye old little honey on the second line that looks like an endgame move when you have a situation like this. Because now there's a lot of points here that black will have to play a Gote move to save these points. Now, where are we? Give me 1 second. Now, technically, this next move is also a mistake. It is a 3-point mistake. This is the natural way out. We were talking about this earlier, right? And these stones are now... either these stones have to run, which probably they will have to, or white has to find a clever way to sacrifice them. But sacrificing doesn't seem great because you can still... because white probably wants to harass this group a little bit. Right? White can actually force a Q5 here and remove this one eye space, this one eye shape. So black has to run. This is a safe move. It's a 3-point mistake because black should play here and take the ko once. At least once. And offer a bit of a trade. But this is what black does here. And not for the first time, you would probably notice that when I say black should go over here, white goes here. So I think this is when you find the sharpness of, like, Shuwa's sharpness is he finds the hot spot. He seems to be much better at finding the hot spot than Shusaku. And to be fair, again, Shusaku's 11. Okay, Shuwa's a 7-dan professional. He's been doing this for a while. He's pretty good. Now, okay. Now, black makes another mistake here. Black plays here. And I'm gonna take a quick look because I have something that's not written here. Now, this move here, the reason I'm checking with Katago for a second is because this is a 6-point mistake. And black is up at this point by 10 points. So we are at move 92, and black has already spent 2 of his 3 handicap stones. Now, the correct, if you will, sequence according to Katago would be to go in the other direction and go this way. Now this is a different enough sequence. I'm gonna walk through this to see what probably Shusaku resisted doing, because this is a much more complicated sequence in the sense of what you're gonna get out of this, right? You get this, white connects out this way, and then you end up turning around to this ko. And then white comes back around. So you end up with this trade of position, which you can probably understand that Shusaku wasn't completely certain of this outcome. So this would be the Katago follow-up here, where you end up trading away this area of the board to take a much better result over here. And if that looks a little bit shaky for you, yeah, I can understand. And it's possible, it's very possible, that Shusaku also thought this was a bit shaky for him. It looks like the sequence makes the ko on the top left smaller than going the other way. Yeah, yes, I think that's true. It also, I mean, it makes the ko less interesting because I think black sacrifices the group entirely, right? If you go the other way, the ko is going to be a lot more valuable. Checking to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. But yeah, I think this is... Hang on, it's not quite right. This is here. This is here. Okay. Now we're back at the board position. Sacrifices blood for points. That is... Hey, look. When you have points, you can use them, right? I tend to not like making analogies or comparisons to other games, but if you think about Magic the Gathering, you begin with 20 hit points. It doesn't matter if you win with 100 or with 2, as long as your opponent has 0. So you get to spend your 20 hit points however you want, or however you need. So at this point, right, with this Atari, we are going to go down this path, which is going to be interesting because obviously we're going to have another ko. And now black takes this ko. And now this ko is another... Taking this ko is another mistake, where this should be a 4-point move. Black should kind of come down around in this area. But what are you gonna do? Is that 3 kos on the board? Well, it looks like there's 1, 2, and 3 kos, yeah. But it's not a triple ko position because these 2 kos are related. But this one isn't, so you can't dance around these kos. You can't end the game that way. Now, white is... Black is up like 4 points on the board now, and we're at move 98. So it's hard to understand. It's hard to understand what this was for. But it seems like taking this ko was just an error in judgment. So now, white is going to just connect here. It's down to 2 kos on the board. Now, the hard part is when you play here, you are killing the stones here. Like the black stones are just dead now. But the worst part probably is that the G11 stones are now completely floating. Like they don't have a base anymore. Black has to do something about these stones. And this group is now safe as well. So this was a very difficult trade to balance. And because this is now connected to safety, right? This is now alive. White is going to be able to play a lot more aggressively here because the way out is completely safe. So black takes this. Where are we here? 7 captures to 5 captures. That's correct. Now, it is not... White didn't get this completely for free. White was... Black was able to attack this shape pretty effectively. Making 2 eyes here is going to be a little bit difficult. So now this position is roughly settled for now. Minaro, thank you for the raid of 7 people. I hope your stream went well. So black gets to come back here, and we're gonna poke at. We're gonna remove a bunch of the easy or powerful follow-ups we had because we're closing that door. But it does mean that we get to, as white, we get to poke at this group. So here, the reason this move is important, this Kikashi now, is because this removes eye space, right? Black could make a Gote eye, which would make this group much, much stronger. And now that we've played this forcing move, we get the 3-3. At this point, black is up 6 points. Now this is nice because this late in the game, this late in the shape. How you doing, Minaro? This acts as an invasion and a reduction because this area and this area are going to suffer from it. The forbidden 3-3 sequence. Turns out it's not that forbidden. Now, here black chooses this direction, so he's going to reduce what white can do over here, which is fair enough. And then white jumps. And then black makes another possible 3-point mistakes. Black should probably push at d5 here, which would be more active. But I suspect he wanted to avoid, again, further complications and issues with these stones. So he plays this looser position. And it allows white to fix in just the way white is going to fix, right? White can push here, which... You thought b5 was the next one for fighting in Moyo? I guess. Yeah. I think that's not what white is... I think it's not what black is trying to do. I don't know why it's not what white is trying to do, what black is trying to do, but that is not the choice. Now, at this point, white got a nice reduction. This group, this area here, this territory is still very open because of this stone. So there's a lot of room, and of course these are floating, right? So that you can push probably and then jump in. But this is going to be fairly solid points. So black turns around, and now we're almost in endgame, right? Like the things keeping us from endgame are these stones are floating. This group doesn't have 2 eyes yet. This group doesn't exactly have 2 eyes yet. Black got Sente, but at what cost? Yeah, that's the question. You fail to see what's bigger than that reduction that's worth getting Sente for. Well, black is going to challenge this group. I think this is part of black's idea here. So white is going to reduce. And by the way, this move here gives black an extra 5 points or so. Well, extra, you know, when you look at it with Katago, it just goes, of course you get this move. I've been counting these points for the entire game. But from a human being perspective, that's 5 points. And this is going to be a very interesting sequence, because one thing to consider is once we've done this, this group does not have two eyes. This white group here. So black absolutely has been looking for a way to harass this group and get points out of it. Now white here has to allow this peep this way. It's the only way he's going to be able to get the group out. So he gets to poke, and he gets to ask for a couple points on the right side this way. And here this group is beginning to aim at connecting to this group, because these white stones will never make it past that in that direction. And black is going to try and reduce the access to this to the side. But black might be able to secure some points, secure these stones, and save the right side a little bit by pressuring this. Tsuji time? I don't think so. I think black is going to play very calmly here. We get this sequence here, which gets us a stronger corner, and then reduces the ability to make points here for white. White is going to aim for some possible eye shape. And then white plays here, and the groups are almost connected. Almost. So close. Black plays a forcing move here. And you'll notice, by the way, if you're interested, that we have another table shape here for connection. And of course the trade is we have weakened this group a little bit, and we don't want to play moves that would just be horribly gote. So now black gets to come back here. And white saves his eye space. And then we're going to continue to challenge this area a little bit, make some more points still on the right side. Something just disappeared from my laptop. Oh, Firefox got updated, I think. And then white is going to begin his own small endgame sequence here. So he's not... White seems to not be worried about these stones being disconnected, because possibly if he can get these stones out or poke in this direction, make it easier to go in this direction, then these stones don't have to connect here if they can connect there. And black might not want to let these stones die, because that would be a lot of points. But black gets one forcing move here first to say, can I take all of these points? And white has to say no. And black gets to ask this question again. And then white is going to play here. Now black at this point really thinks they can't really try to cut here with Q10, because they could technically cut, right? But the problem with this cut is it would really squeeze the liberties for this group a lot, and it would become a big fight between this group and this group. And I think at this point Shusaku's not super interested. So black just turns and lives by capturing these stones. And this also helps a lot, because by getting stronger, white does need to do this, because if white doesn't connect, then now black is going to be able to push through because that additional strength will make a big difference. So now, this is going to be alive, this is going to be alive. So we're down to, I think, one group, maybe. I think maybe this is the last group that is not really alive. And so black is going to work off of that group. To work towards a connection of some sort. And here we go. Now this group is going to be connected out into one of these two groups either way, so we're fine. So now that all of the groups, now that all life and death is settled, we are in endgame. So the first move we're going to get in endgame is this one, because what else are we going to do? Right? And this is going to be, of course, noted as another connection, another consequence of white being able to connect over here. If white were still disconnected, they would just be struggling to live, rather than playing moves that are purely reducing. So this kind of move had to be taken into account when black chose the sequence over here that, well, assuming black chose, right, and black didn't make a mistake, then allowing white to connect here was something that black had to take into account, and understanding it would lead to this kind of endgame move. So now, I believe we're walking through a fairly normal endgame. I don't remember if there's going to be any particular egregious mistakes to note, but there's going to be some interesting endgame situations, so it's worth playing through this anyway. Like, for instance, we get to ask some questions about the liberties over here. Now black connects. White gets to peep here. This turns out to actually be a 3-point mistake, because this move is better. White gets R12 either way, and S12 has access to the T13 honey, so like this, the honey further up here. Now, I'm happy to tell you where we are on the score, because this might be one of those things where it might be one of those things Shuwa did on purpose. Right, it is endgame, and white is up by 1 point now, whereas before this, obviously, white was up by a little more. But we get this peep here. And we get another mistake from black in response. Black plays here. Black should resist and peep here. This would be stronger, because white will have to protect the wedge at O12, which is going to be this wedge, and then black will get sent in to go play M2. This might have been a mistake. Maybe black was tired at this point. Maybe black missed it, but black closes the territory. It might also be that, you know, black counted a little bit off, because the game is within 1 point right now. So when you have an end game like this, you know, when it's within 1 point, the best end game wins. Really, because anything that's off a little bit impacts the score. White closes this naturally. We extend here. No fancy shenanigans. ask if we can bring this stone back from the dead. Summary refusal. Sorry, I said M2. M2 is this. This move was bigger, not this one. This one. Now the next move by white is kind of fun because white keeps here, and it's worth noting that white is going to get something out of this exchange, regardless of whatever way black blocks. Right, the obvious one being if you block this way, white gets to turn here to pull back. Black chooses this sequence. Which is maybe a little bit more complicated. We get a connection here. Then we descend just to keep things nice and clean, or as clean as they're gonna be here. Then black gets a little bit more points here. And then exchanges here, which leads to this particular Atari. White plays up. Black needs to go and connect. White extends one more time. White stays connected. Black takes a stone. That's a lot of work for one stone, but that's where we are. White encloses here. Black Atari. White turns. Gonna save this. Gonna poke at this boundary and connection. And then we're gonna poke further at the points that this group will be able to make. White is good, so white here tries to minimize before black can put a stone down. So black gets to put a defensive stone, but it loses a few points because white got there first. Gonna block here. We get another Atari. Oops. I'll fix that stone in a second. And black. Oops, sorry, hang on a second. The order is wrong here. Atari connects. White connects back here. And then black connects here in order to not be split and dead. That is the order of operations here. Reduce all the things. And live. Very important, living. Points. Trade a little bit of endgame for another little bit of endgame. Then we peep. Connects. We close up here. Ask how far we can go. I think endgame is my favorite part of the game. Also, have I screwed something up? No, this is this part. I don't really know why. I think something, well, I think the thing I like most about endgame is this feeling that we are we're just finishing something, and it tends to be calm and methodical, and just, you know, these agreements can be resolved very unambiguously in endgame. Maybe that's another reason I like it. I'm not sure. Get to close this a little bit. We're down to half points. Shuwa is merciless, closing down all of these. I suppose if they really wanted to, they could fight a Ko here. Close here. Close here. Okay, and this is the last move we have in the game record. This game is marked, and Katago agrees that White wins this game by 1 point. So whew, what a game. This feels like it's not straight. I'm just wrong. Well, I hope you will enjoy this game. There was less board counting than I think we tried to do in the Shusaku Study Project. We often try to count points and territory. I think it's helpful to have that, but here I got caught up, and there was just a lot of stuff happening in this game, honestly. Alright, I put the stones away. Oh, at least Ed enjoyed it. Good. Whew. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, this game is, well, if you're not catching this game live on Twitch, you're going to be seeing this game on YouTube, on the Shusaku Study Project channel. If you would like to contribute and participate, hydrate, that's important, I'll do that. If you would like to contribute and participate, by all means, go check out the webpage, the homepage. English is hard. Check out the website in the description. Because we need more good people. We are developing, I think over time, as we refine the guidelines, it gets easier and easier to define more than just by example what each type of description is, each type of analysis is. The analysis, such as it is, do I do scripted videos for the synthesis? I don't think I understand the question, sorry. Like I have absolutely seen that everybody who's contributed to the project for like more than 2 games has definitely improved in the sharpness of their comments, and I think generally their understanding of the board position, or at least, you know, their ability to verbalize their understanding of the board position, which isn't the same thing. But that's not where that goes. Do I set up recordings of the synthesis analysis for YouTube? Would I? Oh no, what goes onto YouTube is this. You are going to hear me say all of this stuff on YouTube. All right. Speaking of YouTube, it is time to say goodbye to YouTube. And I will hopefully see you in my Discord server contributing to the games, but otherwise I will see you in the next I'll see you on the next YouTube comments section.